Welcome to the Purpose-Focused Advisor, a podcast for financial planners, advisors, and RIAs looking to get the most out of yourself and your business. Join Rob Brown as he walks you through a journey that will allow you to take action in your business and your life so you can be the best that you can possibly be. Now here's your host, Rob.
Welcome. Time once again for the Purpose-Focused Advisor. I am so excited to have with us today Joe Moss, who I met through LinkedIn. And I noticed him because Joe is always giving. He's always offering ideas and advice. And I love givers. But in addition to being a great giver, Joe is the author of the newly released book, The Ultimate Advisor Tech Stack 2025, which we'll dive into. He is the connector at The Connector, which we will talk a little bit more about as we get going. And as if he didn't need anything else to do, Joe is the COO at January Advisor. So, gosh, Joe, I'm tired just saying all that. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, Joe, you have a varied background in the financial services industry, coming at it from several different angles. Give us a quick 35,000-foot view of what led you into the industry and to where you are today.
Yeah, it has been interesting, and I haven't been in the industry as long as some people think. I think I've only been in it in 5 or 6 years or so. Compare that to Bob Veras, who's been in writing in the industry for 40 years, and it shows my lack of experience, maybe.
Well, I'm glad you said somebody else being 40 years because I'm probably getting close, and now I don't feel like the old guy.
Imagine the perspective, though. I mean, I'm trying to write about like the best technology for financial advisors now, but my window is very short. Imagine watching the advisor tech landscape over 40 years. I think that would be, 30-ish years from now, I'll have that kind of breadth of experience, I guess.
And my guess is that you might not even be able to write about some of the tech that's in your book because it'll be long gone 30 years from now.
Oh, absolutely.
But I interrupted you. Give me some background.
Yeah.
So you've been at this, 5 or 6 years. You've done a lot of stuff in that 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, so I'll give a abbreviated version of my time before that, and then I'll focus in more on maybe that time. So graduated college and actually was kind of a real estate agent, property manager, residential contractor, so kind of all things real estate for a while, like 6 years or so. But I was interested in the stock market, and I was trading stocks throughout that time. Eventually just got tired of painting walls and hanging drywall and stuff, so I got a job working in a back office of a staffing company. I'm doing payroll. So we're doing payroll for physicians. But I really got into Excel at that time. You can even see I've got a giant Excel logo back here. Because I feel like Excel is the foundation of everything I do. But got into Excel. Then after that, I tried to be a Dave Ramsey financial coach. Very interesting thing. Thought I wanted to be a financial advisor, but just kind of got there through the whole financial coaching movement. There's a ton of blogs at the time all about it. And ended up working as a paraplanner for a financial advisor. So it's kind of 10 to 12 years wrapped up in 30 seconds. But the first job I had for working for a financial advisor, and I talk about this some in the book, I was listening to the Michael Kitz's Financial Advisor Success podcast on the way to and from this job, which was like a 50-minute drive or something. So I had all these really big ideas about how financial advisors ran their businesses. But my experience in my job was one that was very far different from that, charging really high fees, a tech stack we weren't using very well, money spread across a ton of custodians, not really using models. It just was it was chaos, to be honest. So that was when I printed out the Kitz's map and stuck it on the wall next to my desk. And I was like, I'm going to learn about all these companies because I just thought this whole landscape was really cool. So that's the beginning, and I'll stop there and see if
Well,
you have
that
anything
led
to
you
ask.
into a couple of consulting roles, as I recall, because as I said, I guess we met personally on LinkedIn, but as you were talking, I realized that we were actually uh, through my consulting with an advisory firm, and you're working with a tech consulting firm. We actually worked on a project very briefly together. So, what got you into
Yep.
that side of things?
Yeah, so I worked for the one advisor, and then I eventually became a virtual admin for like 6 different firms, and that's where I got to start seeing multiple different types of tech stacks. And then from there, I started working for Kate Gian at Simplicity Ops, and she did Redtail and Wealthbox consulting. So I spent a year and a half there just doing all things CRM consulting and operations for financial advisors. Um, and that's where we met through a mutual client there.
Right. Yeah. So, obviously you enjoyed that consulting. You enjoyed the tech side of things. As I said before, I really just watching how you act out in the wild on LinkedIn. You like helping people, so you're a problem solver, and I think that's probably maybe at the heart of what you do, no matter your role.
For sure. Yeah, no, I look at the Kits' map and I see it as one ginormous problem because it is over, even for the tech experts of sorts, it is overwhelming. Um, and even within a category, if there's 10 to 30 options, it's like, man, do I really have to demo every single one of these options and figure out what it costs and what it's good at and what it's bad at? And so, um, solving that problem in a way, even just for myself, just so I could go through each category and be like, which option do I truly think is the best for the segment of the market that I play in, basically. um, and I think that often you'll find that in either in business or even in creation in general, is that you write for yourself first, or you build for yourself first, to solve a problem for yourself, and hopefully it's a problem that other people are facing as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation because, as you said that, the first thing that popped into my head was when I am asked sometimes why advisors choose to work with me as a coach or a consultant. It's because everything that I learn and teach and use came from the fact that I did it myself. I learned it myself, sometimes the right way, most often the wrong way first. But it
Sure.
gives you that body of knowledge, that framework to really be able to hone in and offer not just knowledge, but some wisdom because you know something about what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, so why this book? Why the Ultimate Advisor Tech Stack 2025 in general, and why now? What made you write that? Because I think that's an interesting story in and of itself.
Yeah, I think whether it's a curse or a blessing, I have a lot of ideas just peppered in my brain all the time. And one day I had an idea. I'd been working with technology as a consultant, as a user for a while, and even made like an Excel spreadsheet of all the different options that were on the Kits' map. But I was like, why don't I just pick my favorite in every category? So that was the beginning of the idea, and it originally took form as a blog post. So I did a blog post with my favorite tool in each category. Um, Favorite, best. Sometimes it's even just a tool that I think is going to do really well. It's not necessarily always like a market share leader, but I also go over some of my biases and reasons for picking things in the book. Um, but yeah, it started as a blog post, and then I actually heard a podcast by Paul McManus saying that you could write a book in 6 weeks. And I don't know, I guess I just was inspired by his story. I ordered a couple copies of some books that he's done, just short little books, under 150 pages. And they just were like super digestible, easy to read. And I was like, the other reason I wanted to write a book was that as soon as I published that blog post, I like within a week I had changed one of my recommendations, and then I changed another recommendation, and I was like, technology is changing very fast, and I want to, really pick what's my favorite tool for as many people as possible. Like there's no one tool that's right for everybody, but if I could pick one tool in the scheduling apps, or if I could pick one CRM, or like for most advisors, what would I choose? So that's another reason I wanted to write a book, is just because once it's in a book, then it's there and you can't change it.
Well, come on. Truthfully, with the way Amazon lets you publish, you could probably
That's
change
true.
it as much as
That's
you
true.
wanted to. There'd just be a lot of bad copies out in the world for the old version and the new version. So I'm curious. In this space, whether you're on the advisor advice side, or you're on uh, the technical side, the operation side, there's a lot to talk about in this industry, and there's a lot of chatter. It's easy to get caught up in discussions about this is the best this and that's the best that, and all that sort of thing. But most often we just talk about it, and only to the people that we run into in the whether it's at an industry conference, or in our office, or just a random phone call, whatever it might be. Um, but you choose to write about what you're learning, and not just in this book, in the writing that you do regularly that shows up on Substack and LinkedIn. What is it in you? Do you even know that says, "Hey, I can't just wait for the next opportunity to have this conversation. I've got to share it. I've got to put some light on it because maybe it'll help somebody."
That is a very interesting question. Um, I think so often humans get stuck in ruts where they start doing something, and then eventually they get to the point where it's just expected that they'll keep doing it, and they forgot why they're doing it. Um, and I think some people can go by decades of their life doing something, and then they have an epiphany, and they're like, "Wait a minute, why actually am I doing this?" So, truthfully, I started writing when I started Pro Advisor Suite, and it was because I was doing marketing for advisor tech companies. And I think a huge part of marketing is content generation. So I think the reason that I kicked off like the email newsletter was as part of launching Pro Advisor Suite. I'd done small blogs and podcasts in the past, but I think this is my first time like really doing it regularly. Um, so, and part of the marketing suite was like I had to write about a company so many times per month. So it's kind of, if I was working for 10 different companies and had to write about two of them per month, it's like 20 different emails a month. So the numbers got up there. And I also found out, like, when I was forced to write content, like it burned out my creative engine. So I've learned from that to it's more important to have good creative content and maybe slow it down than to try to like produce a huge amount of content and burn out.
Yeah, that's great because it'd be really easy to get burned out. But it also, you maybe in that repetition, you were creating some muscle memory as it comes to writing. So when you got a chance to write about things that you wanted to write about, you had that muscle that was already kind of strong and ready to take action. So writing a 150-page book only took you 6 weeks.
Right. No, and I think like I had all these sponsorships, so I had to produce content about specific companies. I think with this book, with the exception of one company, none of them were paying me. So so the ability to actually choose the company that I liked the best in each category, um, objectively, without, because I think it's hard in this industry to be a writer and also make a income from it, without doing sponsorships. You either have to have like a membership where people are paying you for the content, or you have to do sponsorships. But when you start doing sponsorships, then you get financial biases, which are not ideal.
Right.
So yeah, that's been
Yeah.
interesting
Well,
too.
you have to pay the fiddler, right? So
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about so far about you and kind of this process and where you've come from and some of what you think about. But let's now take the book to this audience of advisors who's saying, "Gosh, that looks like a helpful book, but it's still a lot to cover." What's the best way, do you think, for somebody to use this book who has a practice and they're saying, do I have the right tech stack and how do I put things together? Because you certainly don't need, a tool in every category that you list in the book, but you can't just, have red tail and call it a day.
Right, for sure. No, so there's Kit, as part of Kit's advisor tech surveys, he says one of the questions is, what percentage of advisors are using different categories of tools? So the chapters actually go in order of the most used tool, which is custodian, CRM, portfolio reporting, um, to the tools that people are using the least. So in general, I'd say you start at the beginning of the book, and the tools that I cover first are tools that pretty much every single advisor is using. And then as the book progresses, these become more like specialty tools or tools that you may or may not need. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is just that the most important tools, or the ones that most advisors use, are towards the beginning of the book. The second is towards the end of the book. I do actually have a chapter called the starter stack, which is, I believe it's 7 tools, but if you're just starting a RIA from scratch, or transitioning from another RIA, these are the tools that I would recommend for like a starter stack.
So that gives you a great resource. If you've been at it a while and you're kind of wondering about your tools, you can go through them in order. But if you're saying, hey, I need to create my own stack because I'm starting out or making a change, you've got a baseline of tools to put together to give you the foundation.
Yeah. No, and some people are like, Joe, in every category you should have 2 tools, because one tool is not going to be right for everybody, so you should pick like the top 2. And I was like, no, I just want to have one. So I think oftentimes, like, if I recommend Altruist and you're like, well, there's a bunch of reasons I really need Schwab's great too, and maybe you have Altruist and Schwab, or maybe you just have Schwab. But I think you can read the whole thing with a grain of salt, that in some cases, maybe there's a second or third tier option that may be better for you for specific reasons.
Right. And it's a point in time. You're saying, based on what your experience at this point in time, this is my favorite in the category. You're not saying it's the one and only for everybody, but it gives people a start, gives people something to think about. And I guess if you're on the Schwab platform and you're wondering, well, gosh, is there an alternative? Because I know some advisors, think that there isn't one anymore. It's kind of good to know that Altruist is out there and is so well respected.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's change gears. So we have Joe, the author of The Ultimate Advisor Tech Stack, but you're also the connector at the connector. Talk about the connector and what you do there.
Yeah, so it's maybe it's interesting, the genesis of it. So the connector was actually a program started by Derek Notman, and he launched it right before COVID. So it was like the end of 2019 when he launched Connector. I think it was actually in December of 2019. And it was all about teaching financial advisors how to run virtual businesses, the compliance of it, the technology stack of it, the marketing an online business, traveling around the world while you're trying to meet with clients. So that was the origin of the Connector program, was basically his course on teaching advisors this. When I was running Pro Advisor Suite, I connected with him, and he was actually focused on a different company now. And it just kind of made sense to both of us that I take over Connector, because I had a bunch of technology related content and discounts with Pro Advisor Suite, and he had that with Connector. And so I thought the audience would just benefit from bringing those two together. Eventually I decided to shut down Pro Advisor Suite. We're talking about focus before we got on the call, but I tend to be running too many things all the time. And so I'm incredibly focused right now on trying to cut the excess. but of the two brands, it made more sense to continue the connector brand. And then as time has gone on, I think of myself more and more as like the connector between advisors and consultants and technology in the industry.
Yeah. So that's, but in a way, that's really, you can see how the book and what you were trying to accomplish or are accomplishing through that book is connected to the connector, because it's all about helping advisors strengthen what they're doing on different levels by understanding what resources, what tool, whether it's a tech tool or it's a consultant or whoever else it might be, can help them
Yeah.
advance. And we all need to be pointed in the right direction sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think that I have to remind myself of that sometimes. I mean, I have a lot of LinkedIn friends in the tech space and in the consultant space. And so then when I come out with a directory and I am cutting a bunch of those people out that aren't listed, I'm always like, man, I got to have a good reason for this. And just remembering that, I'm personally recommending this person because I know them, and I tried to come up with like criteria. And same thing with technology. Like, can I personally recommend this tool? Because I feel like the book and the directory is for financial advisors. I think there's other directories and stuff that are maybe more for the consultants or the tech companies to get their names out, but that wasn't the purpose of like this specific book.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. And again, it's that. I mean, we talk about it a lot, with advisors who are trying to grow their businesses, and finding the right people to connect with to grow their businesses. It's only natural that that you'd be looking for that sort of thing among the tools that you use, instead of trying to do all this shopping around yourself. I was talking with another tech consultant, a podcast, a couple of months ago, and we kind of came up, I asked the question, are advisors really good at sifting through things and getting to what they really need, or are most of them toe dippers? They feel like they've got to try everything out because everything that they're not using is a bit of a bright, shiny object. And I'm sure you see that whether you're talking with advisors about tech tools or any of the other things that you're working on.
Yeah, no, I think advisors are very busy and they have a lot of problems. And I think that they're always looking for quick fixes to these problems. And there's a ton of shiny solutions out there. And unfortunately, I think that, but maybe that's not just for advisors. I think another reason that I'm kind of focused on focus across all these different mediums is just because I think that's something that advisors really struggle with too, is picking 1 to 3 things to focus on right now. And it's like, especially with your tech stack, like you could spend a full-time job reviewing tech tools and trying to figure out how you're going to implement them in your practice, but just setting even like quarterly goals, like we're going to work on this project, and this project, and that's it, because you could work on unlimited number of projects all the time. That's just not humanly possible.
And then you don't get any of them done because you've got
Exactly, yeah.
10 balls in the air. I love that you said that, because as I think you may remember from our last conversation, that's a big part of my coaching process is my clients do 3 sprints per year, where they're 3 months really focused on what are the 2-3 things that are most important to do right now to help us get towards our biggest goals for the year, and then taking a month break in between to regroup, finish things off, and get prepared for the next one, and then do it again. And that sequence of working on things always helps advisors or anybody who uses that sort of technique get more done more quickly and actually finish things off than trying to do work a little bit on every goal that you have for the year at the beginning of the year, and just trying to keep all of those balls juggling.
Yeah, no, I feel like these are things that I struggle with personally. I mean, just in the past couple of days, there's two projects that I was pretty excited about that I've kind of put on hold. But then also for advisors that I work for or consult with, it's so hard to put things on hold or even to cancel them completely that you're excited about. But that's like necessary in order to make progress.
Yeah, if you have that kind of system, it's easier to say no to something new because you can say no, this does not match up with what I said was most important for me to work on right now. And if something did elevate itself to a point where it really did supersede something that you're working on, you can make that decision, but you're making it a decision relative to what you said was important and not just arbitrarily, well, maybe this will be a good thing to do. So being able to say no, and saying no doesn't mean no forever. It just means no,
Right.
not right now. And you can
Yeah.
keep that on your list of things that you want to talk about or look at in the future. So the next sprint or the next year when you're doing your planning, you've got that idea. If you're recording it properly, you've got that idea there to go back to, so you don't have to lose it. But I would say 8 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, that idea that you say no to now, you'll say no to forever.
Right.
And that's okay,
Interesting.
because there's going to be something
Yeah.
new.
Right.
I loved what you said when we first got started, when we were thinking about this conversation, and tying it back to, what does this mean? We've talked about the connector and the book and some of the work that you're doing, but we also talked about some of the personal things you're thinking about right now. And you use the word, I am ruthlessly cutting things out of my life or out of my business. Why that right now for somebody who obviously loves to stay busy and is really good with generating ideas and putting them into action?
Yeah, maybe it's come on from the book. I mean, I think I decided to write a book on a whim and I pulled it off in 5 months. And then the book was on Amazon. I physically received a copy and I was like, this is very interesting. I want to be more careful going forward. Because I mean, it involved a lot of long weeks and late nights. And I mean, still had a bunch of stuff going on. And I was like, maybe I should talk with my wife beforehand before deciding to write a book in the future. Um, and it was tempting to like go right from that book, like roll right into writing the next one. And at one point I was almost like, I'm going to write a book a quarter, because I mean it's possible, but is it the best way to do things? So I'm trying to actually only focus on like one main goal at a time right now. So like the book is done generally. My family's actually moving states in a month or two. We have a house under contract. And the move, and we're moving to a property. So there's going to be a bunch of work around the property. And so like, I'm starting to say no to things now, even for the rest of the year. Like no to speaking engagements, no to writing another book, no to being on future podcasts, like all these decisions. And I'm just trying to be a whole lot more present about how I spend my time, energy, resources. Because I'm still young. I mean, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was even Warren Buffett, that he made the majority of his money after he was 65 or something. But like there's so much more time. And my father-in-law is always telling me this too. He's like, you're so young, like slow down and enjoy life a little bit. Especially like my kids are getting older and we're buying this property very purposefully to like spend more time outside with them and less time on screens. So I want to make sure that that's like a really high priority. And my follower count can wait. My second and third books can wait. Like speaking can wait. There's a bunch of things that maybe I would want to do, but it can happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So
Right. Or never, because it really wasn't that important.
right,
Because I think the most
sure,
important word you used in there, and maybe I'm biased to this word because of the name of this podcast, is the purpose focused advisor, is you said
yeah,
purpose. And I think one of the things that all of us who are trying to slow down, and I know I am in that category. I'm trying to slow down because I'm realizing that the faster I go and the thinner I spread myself, the less I'm really working on what is most important to me. And I don't want that. I want to work on things that really are important. And it's not just in business, although I have something new that I'm working on that I won't mention right now that I'm extremely excited about, but it's because I slowed down, I got a chance to really think about what that next thing is I want to do in this season of my career of serving other people. But it also is because I just became a grandfather of a granddaughter for the first time. And so now I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter, and I am lucky they live 5 minutes from me. And I'm going to make them my priority. I think there's a reason that they're here, and my wife and I are this close, and I think that's okay. And I think it's important, and to slow down and think and appreciate. And you can learn an awful lot from a 3-year-old who is full of ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
How old are your kids, Joe?
9, 7, and the youngest just turned 6 today, actually.
Okay. Well, happy birthday to your 6-year-old, but you're learning a lot there too. So that's awesome. So Joe, we're ready to land the plane, but I want to make sure that we, number one, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you think about this conversation that we've had, all the different things that we've talked about, that you think would be good for our audience to know?
Man, just super thoughtful around this whole focusing issue right now, both in my life personally and the business that I work for. And I think just being willing to make the hard decisions now. I think it's easy to go with the status quo and just keep pushing decisions down the line, but like truly thinking about what's best for you, what's best for your employees, what's best for your clients. I think it does involve making some tough decisions, whether it's shutting down a project or letting someone go or letting a client go. There's just these hard decisions that I think humans shy away from because they're painful, and it's easier to stay busy and keep grinding. And that if you can get the presence of mind to truly think about what you're trying to accomplish and what's actually best for each person involved, I think that's a blessing. I think it brings people a lot of peace and joy to figure that out.
It does. I'm reading a book right now, and I won't go into the details, but one of the lessons in the book is the beauty of being bored. Because bored can be a bad thing. There's a bad bored, but there's a good bored. The bored of just stopping to appreciate everything around you, the family, the weather, what the world that God has made around us, what the businesses that we've been able to build, and the people that we've been able to impact through those business. Being bored and reveling in those things is really important.
Yeah.
So Joe, what is the best way for people to connect with you? Obviously, they can go to Amazon or wherever they buy books to get a copy of the Ultimate Advisor Tech Stack 2025. But if they want to connect with you and get to know you a little bit better, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, buy it quick because it's going to be outdated tomorrow. No, I think the best way is LinkedIn, just for Joe Moss with a little fire emoji at the end. And then the book you can find it on Amazon or advisortechbook.com.
Okay. And we'll make sure we put that into the tech stack, Advisor Book. Oh, I just lost it already.
Advisortechbook.com.
Advisortechbook.com. All right. Thank you for that, Joe. It was awesome to talk to you, get to know you a little bit better. Congratulations for everything that you're doing in your business and your life. To our audience, thanks for listening this week. We will see you again next week. And remember, we are always rooting for your success. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Purpose-Focused Advisor. If you want to learn more, head over to our website, truestfancoaching.com. There you'll learn all about becoming a purpose-focused advisor. You'll also find today's show notes and links to the other gifts and resources we talked about during the episode. Again, thanks for listening. And remember, we're rooting for your success.